Hello, folks. I'd like to talk about something today. It's I've been working on for a long time, and in this, if in this message, if you all can stand to bear with my rudimentary style of preaching long enough, I believe that you'll find, and I have found, what I believe is a great and grand summary of everything that has been going on, is going on, and will go on in the future surrounding the message of going back to Branhamism, the Third Coming, the Love Divine, and even into the future. So anyway, it occurred to me that I just recently got back from the Philippines and made some observations and had a lot of time to think. And it occurred to me, just to kind of start this off, that us old timers, let's say, and I guess I'm a half old timer, but I'm kind of an old timer in this regard for sure. Us old timers that grew up reading the Bible, like for example, whenever I was in the Philippines, I noticed that the younger people there, because my wife's family, there's a lot of younger folks there. I noticed that the younger ones don't seem to be terribly interested in reading the Bible. Okay, and I think rightfully so for this age. So anyway, I'm just saying that us kind of older ones that grew up reading the Bible are going to be, I think, one day kind of looked at as like wizards with knowledge of the ancient manuscripts, for lack of a better term, because we are, as the younger generation grows up, they're not going to. I don't think that they're going to be into reading the Bible. They're not going to, be into the ancient manuscripts. Basically, at this point, it's pretty much, the Bible's pretty much an ancient manuscript. Okay, but of course we grew up reading it, so, and I'm not saying that wasn't useful, but we're going to one day, I think we're going to be like wizards, if not already, because we're going to be like old shamans and wizards, because people they're going to come up to us and they're going to be like, what did the ancient manuscripts say, and when we're going to pull down on our big white beard and we're going to say, well, it was said in the book of Habakkuk. That's what it's going to be like, because they're not going to know any of that stuff. And, and anyway, I mean, there are guys out here that know a heck of a lot more about it than I do even. It's like this. But what I'm saying is we're going to be, that style of person is we're going to look old-fashioned at some point here, if we don't already. And, like, for example, I'll just say this much. I probably have read the Bible, for whatever reason, more than most of my own generation has. And I would say, per capita, per person, I probably have. And I'm not saying that to think I'm better than anybody else. But I'm just saying that, I'm just going to give you an example. I have read it probably more than most people. I have a particular interest in the Old Testament. I would consider myself, especially of my age group, to be like somewhat of a guru of the Old Testament. Okay, but Don Parnell, for example, I have for years heard him get into preach on things like Esther. He tends to like, I've noticed, preach on like Esther and like some of the later Old Testament. He gets into some fairly, I think, even for Old Testament standards, obscure area. And I'm saying, I'm like, for my age, I'm like a guru of the Old Testament, and I still gotta, whenever he gets to talking about some of that stuff, I still, he's making like some good type of what's going on in this day, and he'll bring some of that up, and I still gotta start flipping through the Bible or get my audio Bible out and listen to some of that stuff to to refresh my memory on what he's saying. Okay, so these dudes are like, these guys, the guys of like Don Parnell's age, they're like real wizards. I'm like a wizard's apprentice when it comes to the ancient manuscripts of the Bible. Okay, so anyway, so I'm just saying, but what I'm saying is as time goes on, as time goes on, it's just going to get to the point that I just don't think, even I'm going to be looked at as a wizard. Okay, so anyway, what I want to talk about is the subject of today. I had to say all that to say this. The subject of today is an observation that I made in the Philippines, and something I've been working on for a long time. I noticed that the kids are not too into reading the Bible, right? I mean, even some of the older folks are not too into it, right? Okay, some of the people even surrounding this, the whole third coming, love divine, blah, 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 Brandonite message, okay? They're not doesn't seem to be too totally interested in reading the Bible anymore. However, I believe that there's going to be things to replace it in a sense, to which we will be able to make types or draw observations from based in relative terms. Like, for example, sorry if I lose my train of thought, but like, for example, it's going to give way, one thing's going to give way to another here. And I noticed that they're not too into reading the Bible, but every weekday morning on channel GMA in the Philippines at 8 o'clock, go figure 8 o'clock, at 8 o'clock there is a anime cartoon TV show that comes on called Dragon Ball Z. Okay, this message is going to be difficult because I don't have any props. I just felt like I just wanted to say it for once because I've wrote this stuff down, but I hadn't really said it. So anyway, I apologize for not having any props. I apologize for the older wizards out here that won't really be able to relate to this as well. But even if they can't relate to it in terms of having watched the show, they'll be able to relate to it, I believe, in terms of getting my point, nothing else. And just like that, whenever they get to preaching on something and I got to go, as a younger wizard, got to go dig into the scriptures, well, maybe this will encourage them to watch anime cartoons to try to figure out what I'm saying if anybody's interested enough to figure it out. Or, if I've piqued enough interest in this. So anyway, my generation was kind of like, I think, the first generation that really started with the anime cartoons. And now it's a big deal. Dragon Ball Z, for those of you who don't know, is probably the greatest anime cartoon of all time. I would say it's probably the most watched. I can't say that for sure, but it's probably the most watched. It started way back in the 80s and ran up through the 90s, and is still going today in various forms. So anyhow, that's what I would like to talk about. I would like to talk about how that Dragon Ball Z, the cartoon of Dragon Ball Z, which I know many people have not seen, but many people have. Like I said, in the Philippines, everybody's watching it. I noticed that, nobody ever pulled out a Bible that I recall while I was there and read the Bible. However, I do know that every morning at 8 o'clock, whatever we was doing pretty much all stopped, and we watched Dragon Ball Z for 30 minutes. That much I know. So my thought on it is there's going to be new ways. There's going to be new ways of, what I was going to say is this. The Bible used to be like a tie post, or not really a tie post. I don't want to make it sound law religious. That's not where I'm going with this. It was a tie post, or it was a medium of communication that we used because everybody knew it. And because, whenever they came up with the printing press in 1500 and some, for 400 years there, no TV. So, we had books, of course. We had all different types of books, and those different types of books could have been used as a medium of communication. But the Bible has been the main medium of communication, I think, for the Western world since the printing press was invented. Okay, so therefore, that was what we used. That was naturally what we used whenever we tried to, not just for the sake that we were into like religion anyhow, or lack of religion, okay, but not just for the sake that we were into that anyhow. But we used that. Even people who wouldn't even been talking about religion might have used the Bible as a reference to make a point. Okay, but of course the religious people have been doing this for years because, it goes without saying, okay? So anyway, it was a medium of communication, okay? Now, I believe that medium of communication is, dare I say, getting a little aged, okay? So, but that does not mean that we will not have new mediums of communication that will not, if properly understood, be able to explain what is going on around us, okay? And that's case in point, anime cartoons. My generation, and especially the younger generations younger than me, which I'm going to talk about in this, they're more into that. They can relate to that. I gotta speak for my generation here. I gotta speak for a generation that can relate to those things, that can't necessarily relate to the Bible, but can relate. That's the things that this generation can relate to. Okay, so as time goes on here, we've got to do more of that. That's going to be the way things are going to be done now. The medium of communication of the day is going to be the way things are done. And I'm not saying we're going to throw the Bible out. I'm not saying that we're not going to use that too, because we will. Because even the younger generation, they'll know somewhat about it, but to some degree, from the way it looks. But anyway, so having said all that, I just wanted to say I want to speak today on the medium of communication of the age. And like I said, I think a case could be made for my generation and younger ones, which is who I mostly kind of want to talk to here today. Well, not really, everybody, but I want to kind of tell their story more than has, I think, been told today. And I want to do it using the medium of communication that they would understand. So anyway, having gotten it that far, I want to get into it. I want to talk about this anime cartoon called Dragon Ball Z. And what I want to do is I want to take everything that's going on and I want to show you, according to that very cartoon, what's going on. Okay? For those of you, like I said, I'll apologize one more time. For those of you who don't know anything about it, I apologize that I don't even have props. But for those of you who do know something about it, you'll know the people, the players, the characters in this anime cartoon that I'm talking about. Okay? And to me, of all the messages that I've ever thought of, this one continues. It has, well, all the things that I've ever thought of, this one continues to blow my mind. I have had my mind blown so many times by thinking about this cartoon. There has got to be something to it. There's something to everything. But this one, it's just like, I don't know, just so many times I've had my mind blown. So anyway, I want to kind of lay it out, and I'm going to do my best to tell the story for those of you who don't know, and to tell what was going on, and to make it to where it's possible that anybody can understand it. And those of you who do know it will know much better what I'm talking about. Okay, and have visual in your mind. So, what happened was, the story of Dragon Ball Z is the story of a guy named Goku. Okay, Goku grew up on the planet Earth. He was not from Earth, but he grew up on the planet Earth. Okay, he's the hero. He was the early hero of the whole thing. For the first couple sagas, Goku was the main hero. Okay, what eventually ended up happening was for probably the first half of this whole thing, the main villain, although they didn't know it for a while, was a guy named Frieza. Frieza was the main villain. He was behind the scenes. They had other villains, but he was the guy that was the main villain, making all the other people do what they were doing, and was the reason that Goku ended up even going to Earth in the first place. So anyway, what happened was Goku, Frieza was basically a planet broker, okay, and he had his minions essentially to go out and to take over planets so that they could sell those planets, because see, these minions, these people like Earthlings, weren't very strong, obviously, but compared to like some of these aliens, but these aliens were super strong in ways. And so he would get them, the weaker ones, to go like conquer a planet, because one alien was stronger than all the people on the whole planet, so he'd just send one alien, they'd conquer the planet, then they'd sell the planet. Okay, so that basically they were planet brokers, is how they put it in the show. So anyway, Frieza was the head of all this. So he wanted Earth to be conquered, okay? Well, Goku wasn't, he grew up on Earth. He said he was sent to Earth to conquer Earth because he was a super strong alien of an alien race. He hit his head while he was there when he was a young kid, forgot his mission, and grew up thinking he was an Earthling. It's a really great storyline, by the way, if you ain't got nothing to do. Check it out. Okay, so anyway, he thinks he's an Earthling, so he grows up as an Earthling, okay? And then as he gets older, he begins to figure out, these people start coming to Earth they're like, well, why didn't you take it over? And so anyway, so he begins to figure out that Frieza is behind this whole thing, and he's just trying to take over everything. So Goku was from the planet Vegeta, which was a race of people called the Saiyans. And there was this legend of what was called a Super Saiyan. And the Goku, however, had not attained this level of being, and nobody had for a very long time. So anyway, what happened was it turned out that it came down, to make a short story, Goku had to fight Frieza's minions, and then he had to eventually fight Frieza. Okay, he had attained to a very high level of strength that was like really close to Super Saiyan at that point. He was fighting Frieza's minions. Okay, so anyway, let me just explain what Frieza is. Frieza represented the old enemy, which was essentially Pisces church religion. Okay, that's what it was. That's what he represented. The planet brokerage represented how that these churches were trying to rule everything. Okay, that's pretty much what it was. They were brokers of people, pretty much. They're a congregation. Okay, so that was essentially a planet. So that's what they were doing. They were trying to rule over the people, conquer the laity, the Nicolaitan spirit, okay, to bring some Bible into it. So anyway, so what happened was that's what Frieza represented. That's what these guys represented. The guys that Frieza's minions and Frieza, okay, trying to conquer everything. Okay, so anyway, that was the old enemy. That was the second coming. Okay, so here you've got Goku. He's the main hero. Okay, well, I'll tell you who that is. That was William Branham. Okay, so William Branham is Goku. He's the main hero at that point. Frieza is the second coming religious lord. Okay, essentially. So anyway, Goku goes to this planet to fight Frieza and his minions. Okay, and first he faces off against Frieza's minions, and they were known as the Ginyu Force. So anyway, he's beating up the Ginyu Force, and then he comes against Captain Ginyu, who was the head dude of the Ginyu Force. Captain Ginyu had this ability to do a body switch with people. So what happened was he body switched with Goku, took over Goku's body, and Goku ended up with Captain Ginyu's body because Goku's body was stronger. Okay, so anyway, eventually what happened was how they defeated Captain Ginyu and got Goku back his body was they put up a frog. Somebody threw a frog in front of Captain Ginyu's body switching technique, and Captain Ginyu got turned into a frog, and Goku got his body back. Okay, so I told you all that to tell you this. What this represents is that William Branham said that a frog it only looked backwards. Now, I've talked to some other about that, but nonetheless, that's what William Branham said. He said a frog was an animal that always looked backwards. Okay, so what it was these church lords, essentially, that come out against Goku, against William Branham, whenever he was trying to take over the, dispense with the second coming church nonsense. The lord of that, one of the lords, the head honchos of that, came out against Goku and got turned into a frog. What happened was they tried to switch bodies with William Branham. They tried to do anything they could do to get him to take him over. any dirty trick they could come up with. And they eventually, what happened was he won and turned them into a frog, because William Branham won against them through his preaching. And they all got turned into a frog because he equated them with being a frog that was only looking backwards. That they were just looking backwards into their way of thinking. Okay. Church creeds, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we know the story. We know the William Branham story. Okay, so anyway, so that was very vindicative of what went on in Dragon Ball Z. Goku won, Branham won, and turned their head man into a frog, and that was what it was. Okay, that to symbolize the 7 church ages. Then, or at least he was the second ahead man. Frieza was the head man. Captain Ginyu was second ahead. Then he goes up against Frieza. Okay. So here's Goku against Frieza. Frieza is the head man of the church ages, right? Basically. So anyway, Goku, or he's the head man of the church itself. So anyway, Goku, William Branham, is up against the second coming Pisces church age mentality. Okay. So what then happened was that the only way that Goku could defeat Frieza, or defeat the second coming church age mentality, was that Goku had to attain. See, Frieza was always scared that one of the Saiyans would get to the level of the legendary Super Saiyan, and the only way, and he was scared of that, and the only way that Goku could defeat Frieza was that he had to attain the level of the Super Saiyan, of a Super Saiyan state. And the Super Saiyan state was, see, Goku's hair was black, and whenever he turned into a Super Saiyan for the first time against Frieza, he had never been a Super Saiyan before, his hair turned golden. Okay, so what all this means is that Goku turns into a Super Saiyan. He's fighting Frieza, and he turns into a Super Saiyan, and his hair goes golden. And at that point, he is able to defeat Frieza. Okay, now, what he does is Goku did not tend to like killing people. So what he did was he had defeated Frieza, but he didn't kill Frieza. So what happened was William Branham turned into a Super Saiyan. And what Super Saiyan means is third coming. Okay, he had to turn into third coming. He had to leave the second coming, the black hair stage of Goku, turn into the second coming, or third coming stage, which was Super Saiyan. You have to turn third coming before you can defeat the second coming church ages mentality. That's what Branham did. That's what Goku did when he fought Frieza. That's what Branham did when he was fighting the seven church ages mentality. Okay, he went Super Saiyan. In terms of anime cartoondom, William Branham went Super Saiyan. Okay, so he goes Super Saiyan, and he defeats Frieza, but doesn't kill him. Okay, William Branham went third coming back in the days whenever he was here preaching back in the 60s. He went third coming, but he did not kill, he did not totally destroy the second coming 7 church ages mentality. Okay, so anyway, Goku goes off the scene, and Goku goes off the scene. That's what happened. See, Frieza was defeated, and anyway, the planet blew up, and Goku and Frieza got separated, and they were both still alive. And so anyway, and it's the same thing. William Branham, like Don Parnell said, he said everything ended up right there. He said the King of Rock and Roll died in that era. I guess the Pope died. Martin Luther King Jr. died. Bobby Kennedy died. Everybody died right there. Okay, and what it was the world blew up. The world blew up at the end of the 1960s. Basically, was what happened. Okay, so the world blew up. So anyway, here goes the second coming mentality. It's still alive even after William Branham defeated it, but didn't kill it. But it's still alive. William Branham goes off the scene. Okay, Goku's off the scene now. Okay, So anyway, that gets us up into kind of part two, starting part two. Okay, so this might be best to do a part one and a part two. What do you think, wifey? So that it would be easier for people to keep up with it. Let's stop it there and let's start it on a new one. That way people will have a point to stop at. Okay, so let's make this part one. Okay, wifey, so if you want to turn that off, and I'll be right back with part two. Stay tuned for part two.